Why should Instagram have all the art fun?
Why not bring the art conversation to LinkedIn?
I'm Melissa, an artist and a culture sleuth.
I'm Nina. I'm a visual storyteller, a LinkedIn content creator, and a photographer.
Creativity is as vital to a successful business venture as it is to an artist.
So why is the conversation about art and business segregated to different media platforms?
That's what led us to create a live show on LinkedIn.
We interview fascinating experts and explore art and how it relates to business, technology, and education.
Welcome to An Artful Life, curious conversations about the ways humans make and use art.
All right, so we lied. This is not the show.
It sounded very interesting, though.
It is a very interesting show.
It's another show.
One day.
Can I be on that show?
Yes, if you're an artist, you can. So sorry for that. Our software just took matters into its own hand and played this lovely video, which is for a completely different show. So forget about the art thing, table that somewhere else, and welcome to the LinkedIn Roundtable with Sophie Lechner and Jason Van Orden and me, Nina Furry. So this is our fourth edition of the Roundtable, and today we want to talk about specifically how to elevate your conversation on LinkedIn with very different approaches and tools. So the three of us are all very active on LinkedIn, and I will ask Sophie and Jason to introduce themselves in a hot second. And this roundtable was designed to have conversations around LinkedIn content creation strategies, algorithmic finesses, and all of that. But as I said, today we're going to go into the conversation around elevating your conversation. So this is really a conversation that starts after you are no longer in survival mode on LinkedIn, but kind of have now the wherewithal to think about what you really want to achieve with this platform and for your business and for your goals. So Sophie, give us a quick introduction, who you are, what you do, and what you're doing right now, because you are at a very exciting moment in your career.
Yes, it is a very exciting moment. So I have been a LinkedIn coach for mission-driven entrepreneurs for the last 4 years. And as I was doing this work, I realized that I was doing a lot more than teaching LinkedIn. And so I went back and studied everything I had been doing and realized that really there were some bigger marketing principles at play. So I decided to write a book, and it's now written and it's coming out in a couple of weeks. So I'm super excited about that. I've started collecting reviews from my early readers, and I am at 49 reviews this morning. I'm very excited. And they are just, it's like I start my day by reading the reviews, and it just fills my cup for the whole day. It's really exciting.
Love it.
So
wonderful. Yeah. And I'm one of those reviewers, and it's on my to-do list. Excellent. Thank you, Sophie. And we'll dive into that in today's conversation for sure. What about you, Jason?
Yeah, so my name's Jason Van Orden. I live in Brooklyn, New York, and I'm a growth strategist who works with coaches and consultants to help them unlock that next level of impact and income. They're in a transition or an inflection point, and they're just not sure what to tweak in their messaging or their offers or their sales process to really open up to much bigger possibilities. And so I help them tweak everything and find the things that need to be adjusted to just create that exponential growth. And most recently, in the last year or two, I have developed a lot of AI solutions for my clients to help them supercharge that and do even more in less time without sacrificing authenticity or quality or results.
Excellent. And I don't know whether you're hearing New York City happening in the background, but that's Harlem. So I'm in Harlem, New York, and I'm, as I like to call myself, a recovering film producer who now is a LinkedIn content creator and a featured LinkedIn content creator. And I help my clients with all things creating content that they love and that elevates their conversation on LinkedIn. Specifically these days, very focused on LinkedIn Lives, hence this year. So today, the conversation really is how, I think we're at a point where we can, start talking about not just the mechanics of how to be on LinkedIn and how to do a profile and how to post and how often to post, but really take it to that next level where we talk about how do we want to be perceived, how do we want to be seen, and how are we posting so we can attract aligned, ideal clients into our ecosystem or our operating system. So both of you have, what I love about this conversation that is about to ensue is that we all are very much aligned into the world of no bro marketing, no cold outreach, no massive spammy, DMs, and really come up with brilliant ways to show our expertise and thought leadership with content creation. And again, we do it very differently. So, Sophie, with your book and with this sort of, signature system that you have in place, what has that, I mean, I'm watching you on LinkedIn. I'm like, whoa. I mean, Sophie's just exploding all over the place, right? And your conversation and how you show up has just shifted so dramatically. So can you talk a little bit about how that has happened for you? As you briefly talked about in your introduction, from, coming up with your own system, realizing what you really were doing, which I think is one of the biggest insights that we can have, and then writing the book.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that's been really a game changer is that I started sharing the ideas in the book, in my posts and in my articles, my newsletter. And so that created this is, I think, what we mean by elevated conversations, right? This kind of took my posting and the commenting and the conversations to another level, because it was just, it's just a deeper thinking. And I think when I came up with concepts that, I had found by observing what was happening with my clients and with my work, when I shared those, I think it really resonated because it was seeped in the experience with the clients. And so people recognized the process and the symptoms and what it looked like, and were able to connect with the ideas. And I think that's what was really exciting. And I took a lot back out of those comments and conversations, and how they also developed in, meetings and calls and things where people would even comment on the LinkedIn conversation. And I took all that and brought it back into the book. And sometimes I would pull my hair out and say, okay, it's the third time I write this freaking chapter. But, it was refining all the time. And I think that was, I think that's really reflected in what I see in the reviews. Like, people are like, I'm recognizing myself,
That's beautiful. And that means you have a fully aligned audience.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So in creating a signature system, and I know, Jason, that is something you talk about as well. You both have one. I don't. I'm as far as some C words, clockwise C words. We're getting there. But how does it? I mean, I'm assuming it just gives you clarity where there was none before, I would imagine, right? How does it land, Jason, for your audience? Is it just a way for people to more easily be able to define what you do and how they can work with you? Or how was that experience for you?
Is that a question for me?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, one thing I love many things about what Sophie does, but one is that, she has her own signature method, and it's such a powerful thing. I mean, I often hear from my clients, at the end of our engagements, it's one of the most powerful things that we work on together. And it is because it brings clarity in so many respects in terms of how to talk about the value that you provide clients, and very quickly help them understand here, like the outcomes that I provide, things that are meaningful and top of mind for them, and how you help them overcome the challenges that currently are maybe keeping them stuck or holding them back, and how you present it in a way where they feel like, this is different than what I've heard before. And I think that's a big piece of this elevating the conversation is, I often, and probably in our past conversations, have talked about, you need to be relevant and resonant. and remarkable. Relevant is talking about those top of mind things that will immediately catch their attention. Resonant, talking about them in a way with values and approach that vibes, and they're like, I can trust this person. You're my kind of person. But remarkable is like, what are you bringing that gives a different perspective, a new hope, a path forward that where they weren't seeing it before. And that's one thing that very quickly will elevate you above the conversation. And by defining your signature method, you find those remarkability factors inside your work.
Yep. So, so now that we kind of has established, how we can attract the higher level people or higher level with a higher level conversation, the right people into the conversation. The next question, and of course, it becomes like, what are the tools that we use in order to do so, right? So, as a next step, Jason, I know that you are very much into using AI tools, and you've been teaching a lot of workshops I've seen, how to use them and how to use them in a way. You take it away before I put words into your mouth.
Sure. Yeah, AI is definitely one of my favorite tools for elevating the level of content that I'm creating, while also reducing the amount of time and effort that it's taking me to do so. And, I find there is a lot of resistance to that, and understandably so. We have a lot of things to figure out when it comes to AI. But I think one of the reasons people have resistance to using it is like they've tried a few things out and not quite gotten the output that they like, and they feel like they're just adding to the noise. And they're seeing plenty of people out there, and we've seen it on LinkedIn, where people are just feeding a lot of noise by just having AI crank out easy stuff, right?
Mhm.
And so by just making a few shifts and then increasing those shifts of how you're using AI, you can start getting into those remarkability factors and bringing in perspectives that you might not have otherwise realized. So like one tip that I gave yesterday in a post when I was talking about this live stream was, instead of asking AI to just write content for you, you want to have it coach you to getting to better content. And so I gave a list of questions you can ask it. You can write your first draft and then put it in there and have AI, for instance, brainstorm some first sentence hooks that would really grab attention, because we all know how important that is. And so often we write the post like, I need to be done with this, I need to move on. And then we've worked so hard on that piece of content and totally robbed it of its ability to be seen, because we didn't take just that little extra time to put in a really good hook. Or to push back, say, hey, push back against this. What am I not saying here? What could I say that would elevate this above what others are saying in the industry? Is there anything I could add here to really help it resonate or align more with the day-to-day experience of the people that I want to reach and what they're feeling and desiring and struggling with right now? And so just having it coach you on a few of those things, even if you just take a couple of the suggestions that it gives you, that's going to be one easy way to take it up a notch. I'm sure some other things I can talk about as well, but that's just to give one example and show people there is a path forward to using AI very authentically and in a way that will, it'll blow your socks off when you're like, wow, I feel like it's like that movie Limitless many years ago, where the guy would take the pill and suddenly he could just like read and absorb information and create. And like, he was just like, every faculty was, and that's how I feel sometimes using AI. Is like, now I can like operate at the speed of my thought and take my thoughts to places where it wasn't before. And that's what I love helping people to achieve.
Right. So AI becomes like a partner and
Yeah.
a coach, and not the the word dump that we see so often happening, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I also think, and as you said yesterday, I think it all in the end, especially when it comes to writing, which is just a fraction of what AI can do. It really the magic lies in asking the right questions, and probably also, and this is a question again, how much do you feed, or how worth it is it to feed the AI information about you and your business, like sort of prop it up so it has a library to feed, go back onto.
Yeah, an easy way to take it to that next level, besides giving it a little more context and asking it to coach you, is giving it a lot of context about your business. And one of the easiest things you can do is, next time you go for a walk, or, you have some time, just, grab your phone, bring up the notes app or something, and hit the mic button so you can just be dictating into it and just start talking about your business. And you don't necessarily need to worry about if you're rambling a bit, or, if it's all in the right order, because AI does a great job of sifting through and summarizing and understanding those things. But just start talking about, here's my history as an entrepreneur. Here's my business as it stands now, who I serve, how I serve them, what my clients most say to me that they enjoy about our work together. Here are the marketing channels I use. Here are the things I struggle with. Here are my strengths. Here are the things I'm worried about right now and trying to figure out. And so that there's all of this additional information that AI is referencing every time you are using it. And one easy way to do that is just have these documents on your computer or as a Google Doc, and most AIs will let you attach that to any prompt. So instead of having to repeat all that every time, when you're going to write or have it coach you on a piece of content, you can say, hey, make sure you refer to this attached document so you can give me very catered stuff. And sometimes I'm surprised at what AI will remind me. It's like, well, this is kind of like what you were talking about in that piece of content, back, because I've also now started giving it past examples of my content as well. So then it'll say, hey, you might want to refer to this anecdote that you told a year or so ago, and it would be perfect right here. I'm like, yeah, that's great. And so it's coaching me, not just using great best practices, but according to me and my strengths and my goals and values. And so that really takes it up another notch.
Yeah. I mean, that's it's mind blowing, right? What because it's just that super brain that can hold all the information that we tend to forget, right?
Right.
It's yeah. So
you can create your own bots now. I mean, I haven't done it, but I have a colleague who is doing it, Rebecca Cuevas. She's created her own bots to do certain things that she coaches her clients on, and you can feed it all those things, and it almost acts as a coach with you. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Giving me ideas for the next thing after the book.
So in elevating our conversation on LinkedIn, where I want to steer this for a hot second and sort of get all our input on it is when I coach clients on their LinkedIn lives, we start, the technical aspect are the technical aspects, and it's just a checklist you go through. And after today's experience, I'm definitely adding check which intro video is lined up to play automatically at the beginning, at the head of your show. The conversation we're having is sort of, what are your really big goals, like those big, hairy, audacious goals that are sort of hanging in your future? And how can we create a LinkedIn Live in particular, where we invite guests into the conversation that feed into that goal and move you closer to that goal? So not just having a goal of, I want to have X amount of clients and make X amount of income and help X amount of people, but also having the goal of, one day when I grow up, I want to do X or be X, or, so thinking about your goals, or you're elevating your conversation in that context. Lives are a great example, right? Because we get a list of guests that we can invite into a conversation, and we can up level those guests. So I always start with, like, who's your dream guest season 10, right? And then who can you start with in season 1, and maybe who are you eyeing for season 3 or 4? And that just gives you sort of that bigger promise to live into, right? How can that be leveraged, or how would you leverage that, other than just having a LinkedIn Live and inviting guests into a conversation?
Can I go?
Yeah. Open mic.
A big part of my book is creating a movement.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this is the perfect starting tactic, let's say, to this creating a movement. And I don't want to scare people away with, creating a movement feels like it's a big thing. It's scary, right? But it can start very, very simply. And I think a live show, and I will probably do that, is a perfect way to bring people in, find that theme that is really that's going to create a big change and have the conversations. Movements start with conversation, right?
Yeah.
So bringing the right guests to begin that conversation as a stepping stone for bringing more people into the thought process, and then, putting on whatever mechanism you want on the other side of it, I think that would be perfect.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good way. How do you think other content could support that? LinkedIn specific, obviously.
Mhm.
How would you handle that on a newsletter, for instance?
Yeah, so I think the newsletter is definitely something that you can use to support a movement and encourage a movement. What you can do is create a specific newsletter that is, like, okay, we're brainstorming, I'm thinking out loud here. The movement I could start would be, let's redefine marketing. I've been saying that a little bit here and there, and it's really, I think, what I'm doing with my book. And so I could start a new newsletter that's really just about that topic, and then start inviting people to guest blog or to guest LinkedIn newsletter or to comment, and then connect that with videos and lives, and and just make noise that way.
Yep. So basically take, and I think that is really where the beauty of this is, right? We have an ecosystem, and within that ecosystem, we can have that overarching topic, be it that we have this big, huge goal, be it that we have a book, or we have a signature method, and sometimes it's all of the above, right? And spread it over different kinds of pieces of media, and hopefully the kind of media that serves us best and also showcases us best, right?
Yeah, and then you can connect that with collaborations that I'm starting to really find very useful. Is there's a lot of people who are rejecting social media right now, and coming across that more and more. But when you collaborate with people who are not on social media, they have other ways of communicating, and you can do joint ventures and participate in each other's newsletters and whatever. So
yeah. I mean, as we're talking here, I mean, in the back of my brain, as usual, there's a whole party going on. It's like, oh my God, what if we produced all the steps you need to be a successful business coach, and we bring all these people in, and everybody has their specialty, and it all merges into one big happy, love fest. Anyway, that's my party going on right now.
Thanks for that insight into the back of your brain. I think we all have that, the three of us at least.
Yeah, I will always be. I mean, as much as I'm a creative person, I think I always will be the producer who wants to, organize things and hold events and all that kind of stuff. So I just can't help myself.
That's a great strength.
It can be. It can also be very limiting, because the producer also sees all the problems immediately and what it will cost and how long it will take. So that can also be extremely limiting. But that's for a completely different conversation. So Jason, so I love sort of the idea of the movement. So what happens if you don't have a movement, you don't want a movement, you are, maybe you're more of an introvert, right? And I'm not saying that an introvert cannot have a movement. I'm just sort of saying that because I know you, Sophie, are, I don't know how you identify, but
introvert for sure.
I mean, I've experienced your life in a room. I have experienced you both life in a room. I would have pegged you as an introvert with some extrovert tendencies, maybe. So, and I mean, there's something to be said about social media and doing this digitally. It really feeds into the nervous system of the introvert, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So, and then I did what Nina does best. I went completely off topic, and now
I think I know where you were taking that, and I have something to piggyback off of this movement.
Please do.
So, Here's something I would suggest, and Sophie can tell me if this feels like it aligns with how you think about movements. But I think if that feels too big at first, here's a simple way to elevate the conversation and inject a little bit of that in there, and that is to, we all know as marketers, you need to talk about, hey, well, why is this thing I'm talking about important to you, the person reading my post, thinking about working with me? And that's like the minimum you have to do is explain that. Well, start injecting in there, like, here's why this is important to my industry. Right. And so like Sophie's talking about transforming marketing because we need to, like, it's been used and abused on the internet over the last couple of decades. And there are a lot of people who are fed up with it. It doesn't work on them. A lot of people don't want to market that way. And so she's contributing to like elevating the industry and looking at a different way of doing marketing. And then you could even take it to another level. It's like, why does this matter to like a bigger community or even to the world? So like, with Sophie's stuff, could be like, well, in the world in general, we need to be a lot more inclusive and consent-based with the way that we approach marketing. We need to not manipulate each other less. We need to not leverage things like people's fear and shame to get them to do the things that we think, right? And so that's an even higher conversation. So just like start stepping up how what you're doing affects not only the people you're helping, but your industry, the world, a larger community. And to bring this back around to AI, I find that AI can be a great thinking partner. I mean, it's wonderful if you have a chance to like get in the room with somebody like Nina or Sophie or on a live stream, or you've got a mastermind or a coach or whatever. But I talked to I almost said Ada because that's her name, Ada, named after like one of the first programmers. A woman was one of the first programmers, right? I talk to her all day long and say, like, what do you think of this? And in a lot of ways, it's like I'm talking to myself, I think, like externalizing my thoughts out of my brain, or at least having something like organize them for me. And then sometimes inject something that maybe I hadn't thought about. So maybe just start, again, talking, dictate it in. Well, here's how I think about my work and why it matters to me. And so how is this impacting the industry at large? How is this contributing to something bigger in the world? Can you give me some ideas? And likely something will pop up. You're like, actually, yeah, I kind of thought about that before, but I didn't realize that would be significant, because we can very easily discount the impact of what we are thinking and have to say, right? So that's how, I would add on top to that topic and give a suggestion of a way to proceed if it feels a bit big at the beginning.
Yeah. And what's coming up for me as you're saying that is also our dependency on social media and on all things internet, right? I mean, it's with all my love for LinkedIn, it's still like how much are we dependent on sort of this ecosystem that we have no control over, right? That is also troublesome, I think, to a certain degree. And being able to have a conversation that we're taking off of, like, into a more personal realm, like, in person again, maybe our own networking groups, or, platforms that are just not that big, massive, conversation that is just driven by an algorithm that we have no effing clue what they're doing, right?
Right.
And I think LinkedIn is probably the least offensive in that group by far, I would even say. But still, I think there's manipulation in what we see, what we get fed. So totally getting off topic here, but I think it's definitely important to, have a conversation that is not just like, look at me here on social media, right?
Yeah, I think that I always say to my clients, the important outcome is not the post, it's not the DM, it's not the DM conversation, it's the one-to-one conversation on Zoom or in person if you're close. But so keeping that in mind, all these conversations help us, but they need to lead to one-on-one or one-to-many. So, I could use that to piggyback on what Jason taught me. I was, I learned from Jason creating workshops. So you take all these ideas and then you present them in real life. So yes, you're using LinkedIn events to invite people, you're using your content to spread the word, but then people are signing up to actually see you live presenting something, and then having conversations like this or in different formats. So you're right. I mean, it still is, LinkedIn still is a tool a means to an end, the end being relationships, because that's how you build business, and so that's how you change societies too.
Yep. Super agree on that for sure. So if you had a list of people that you wanted to have a conversation with that is aspirational, how would you go about creating a list like that?
Creating a list that's aspirational. Sorry, say that one more time. I was responding to somebody's comment that I thought was a really good comment. So if that was at me, I think I missed the whole question.
Oh, that's great. And if there is a good comment, let me know. I can highlight it in the conversation.
I would want to have authors of books that I've really enjoyed. So I would, in season, I don't know what freaking number it would need to be, but Seth Godin would be on my invite list. Probably season 50, but so people like that, the books that I've really enjoyed, the leaders in the field, would be my guests.
What about you, Jason?
Yeah, so like being the person who's willing, I mean, you said that, as that you have your producer brain, and being the person who's willing to like be the organizer, bring people together is such a powerful thing, whether that's, I run my gym networking group or the workshops that Sophie mentioned, discussion groups, bringing people around table like this, because it gives you a very easy reason why to like reach out to people and say, hey, I'm doing this thing, I'm researching this thing, I want to create content around this thing, I value your insights, it would be great to collaborate. And so for connecting with partners, for even connecting with potential clients, it's a really great way to go. And again, for people who are resistant to marketing, well, so many of the coaches and consultants that I serve are really great at they have great people skills, they ask great questions, they know how to facilitate, or, they have some of these different strengths. So channeling those into those kinds of marketing channels is a great way to show up. And you are essentially marketing and selling, but in a way that feels natural to you and still creates immense value for people. And I think one of the most powerful things you can do in bringing somebody into your world and, moving the right people who are ready towards working with you is to treat them like a client even before they're a client, and give them opportunities to see or feel and experience what that's like. So you come to my workshop, you're going to see my frameworks, you're going to see how I create tons of tools and templates for how I'm always like, hey, let's get something useful and actionable done here. And my hope is you're like, hey, you know what? This seems like the kind of support I need. Maybe I should talk to Jason. Or maybe you get what you need and you're off for a while, and that's great. And then maybe you come back around later. But it's a really powerful way to approach your marketing.
And
ideas of things to do.
And I think, Jason, you're coming up with a brilliant point. Especially with the video marketing, which for a lot of people seems to be like this huge obstacle. I've had people that have heard me, especially when I used to do the score workshops in person in New York. People will come back to me 5 years later and say, I'm ready now. I'm like, wow. I mean, wow that they still remember me 5 years later. And wow that, sometimes you do plant that seed. And I think that is also something to not dismiss, is the people you're talking to today are your very likely potential clients in maybe not tomorrow, maybe not even next week or next month, but like in this case, 5 or 6 years later. Because they might just not be ready right yet for what it is that you're offering. And I think, and to that point, Jason, how do you say that? Treating everybody like they are a client now, I think, is a brilliant way of doing it.
Yeah.
So, Sophie, what got you scribbling away?
Okay, so I'm preparing a program to help people who want to implement everything that's in the book, starting first with the workbook, which is out in a few days, but then the program, and remembering what I learned from Jason, and I haven't done workshops in a while because I was just so busy, but doing a workshop each month, to practice each chapter. So there's 9 main strategies in the book. So each month there could be a workshop on each of those strategies, and doing it in public, with people, inviting them to come and do that particular exercise. And then, for those who are interested, they can come into the program. So yeah.
Brilliant. Right
Love
there.
it.
Batch produce, serialize, all my favorite things in the world. Yeah. And then you could make them LinkedIn lives, right? If you wanted to. So
True too. Yes.
Jason, you've had experience with that, right?
Yeah, I mean, another reason why so yeah, to piggyback off of what Sophie was saying there, and signature method makes this even easier if you know like the big blocks of what it is that you do. But even without that, if you know like, hey, here are the big themes. So like my big theme is helping coaches and consultants to scale more impact and income, less time and effort. But underneath that, like the subheadings are more scalable offers, more scalable messaging and marketing that cuts through the noise, and a better sales process that feels good to them so they can grow beyond just their network referring to them and stuff. Well, right there are the three themes that I frequently hold workshops on, right?
Yeah.
And a really easy content strategy would be, okay, well, each month or every other month, I'm going to do one of these workshops, and all the content, in the time leading up to that is like dropping little ideas and things, giving value, but then saying, hey, if you really want to get started on this, come to this workshop, this experience where we'll help you take the first step, get some momentum, and see that it's like, hey, you are ready to move forward on this. And so that's another way that you can. I forgot what I was going to say. Anyway, that's another way that you can try something new with your marketing that might feel really good and natural to you. Again, especially if you're a coach that has those skills to teach and ask questions and things like that.
I mean, on a very practical level, I mean, that's what we do with our quarterly content planning session, which we run in our membership, and just had a free workshop this morning where it's just like, you take a quarterly, content calendar or whatever, however your brain works, right? And then just start filling in what am I launching when, and then go backwards with dropping these content morsels. And then you start building the rest of your content with your anchor content, like your weekly newsletter or your monthly LinkedIn, live show, whatever it is. And then I always say, and once you've done those two things, your launches or speaking somewhere, a conference you're going to, whatever it is, plus your anchor content, before you know it, you've got a full content calendar. So
Totally.
Planning out your content, not to be confused with creating your content and posting it, because those are three very discretely different tasks. But just the planning part can be really powerful, just sort of knowing what you're speaking into for the next couple of months, so you're not banging your head every morning against a wall trying to come up with something to say.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it allows you to batch produce, and that's the big now. Yeah.
Yeah.
And overlaid over all these very practical and time-bound things that you would put in your calendar, I would say keep in mind your customer journey and making sure that you have content for those people who are ready to buy, and just showing them case studies and stuff, but also the people who are at the very, very early stages, who don't even understand what their problem is, and helping them. We're talking about helping people like they're your clients already. That's part of it. I think a part of our job with our marketing is to help those people who are having a problem but don't even understand what it is, and helping them get to the point where they could even consider solving it, right?
Yeah, that's a very good point, and something I'm rummaging through my content list. Am I doing that? I'm doing it probably subconsciously, but I could certainly use some more, some more focus on actually doing it. And the thing is, I always say, like, none of this is brain surgery. It's just sitting down and spending quarterly an hour or two planning this out and then executing on it. And if we're going to wreck our brains about what to write, we might as well wreck our brains in the right direction. So
right.
Yeah.
The chapter 9 of my book has an exercise called the belief elevator, and that's exactly what it does. So it takes all the different types of misconceptions or doubts or shames or whatever, and all the things that it helps you to pull out from your head all the things that you would want to say to show someone they're not alone, show someone there's nothing to be ashamed of, show someone how this is something that's fixable and all those things. So you go through that exercise, you've got content for months.
And that's how you make marketing and sales an act of service, not just this like obnoxious thing that everybody is always doing or having done to them, right?
Yeah. I say bring the joy of your client work into your marketing. That's what exactly this is, right? You sit down to write what your clients need. It's a totally different energy than just, what am I gonna say to get people to buy, right? That dries you up.
I mean, I would say like it's like giving free samples of your work, and then since most of us, I mean, I hope all of us small business owners, because we're certainly not in it for the money or for the free time, although the free time ain't bad sometimes. But you know, if you think of your marketing as an extension of what your passion is. And then to me, it's like, I mean, I love creating content. If I could just create content all day long, I'd be super happy.
Right.
But then, you know, but you want to be creating content about the thing that lights you up, which is why you went into business with yourself and for yourself to begin with. Right. So it seems to me like a no-brainer. But I think we also hear a lot of we should and we have to. And I mean, if I think of the early years when, you know, I moved from being, you know, a video production company to coaching online, I mean, the tactics I resorted to, I mean, it was shameful. I mean, Fui Nina, I mean, there was some really bad stuff in there, you know, like mass DM automations. Oh, God. I mean, in hindsight, you know, the whole.
We just don't know better. Like that's what we've seen and been told. And there's so many things in society that normalize that. But yeah, bit by bit, hopefully we are elevating the way we're having these conversations. And I squirm sometimes thinking about, you know, naive marketing things I did, you know, way back when.
But those things are still being taught. That's the horror of it. Like we've realized we now know, but it's not as if those things are gone. They're being taught alive and well, loudly out there. People were signing up for that stuff, and I'm like, no.
And we're all getting DMs in our LinkedIn inbox, right? That still are on that train of shame, pain, and whatever. And it's like every once in a while when I get one of those, I can't pull myself together and I write back and say, how is that working for you? The problem is when you do that, that triggers the automation.
And then you're in their system.
I don't touch it with a barge pole.
And, you know, I also think it really, really backfires. And example to that point is I had an event pop up in my calendar that looked like it was LinkedIn sanctioned. So it was yesterday at 11 a.m. I signed up for it because it was about LinkedIn Lives. And since I do LinkedIn Lives, I want to check out the competition. This woman in South Africa, she has 15,000 followers. She looked legit. So I signed up for it. I go on and she has an hour. She spends the first 20 minutes playing videos of testimonials. And then she starts, and it is so basic and so dumb, that I was like, what is going on? And then I started looking at the chat, and people are like, oh, you know, this is a scam. You know, they just show up in your calendar. And I'm like, but this was LinkedIn sanctioned. I'm like, if they're sanctioning content that is that bad, maybe I have a shot, you know, at being a LinkedIn sanctioned workshop leader. So I went to look at the URL, and sure enough, it was just some random URL. And I'm like, you're not doing yourself a favor with this shit, you know, and it really is shit. So you know, just don't go there.
It's giving everybody a bad name.
Yeah, it really is. And sure, we have these tools at our hands now. It's like with AI, we have these tools, but let's use them smartly and to our advantage and in partnership, you know. I mean, to the point, you know, the LinkedIn algorithm report is due to come out soon, hosted by Richard van der Bloem. And one of the big things, he gave a little sneak preview over the weekend, is that posts that have AI generated comments in them are no longer getting showed to a bigger audience.
Well, Wait, now let me, so wait, if you
know?
have people commenting on your stuff with AI, which is out of your control, it's going to hurt your content?
Yep.
Well, that's going to backfire, and then unless I'm
How did-
misunderstanding something, but like, why would you penalize people for other people's actions? I don't get that.
I
Anyway, we
think-
don't need to go into that, but I don't
I know.
understand that.
And how do they know?
I think they're also doing one other thing, and I think I have an idea what the answer could be. The other thing they're also doing, I mean, it was a list of 10 things, but the other thing they're doing is that that window of optimal commenting, which was within an hour of a post, that is going away. So I think that is LinkedIn's response to pods.
Hmm. Okay.
And I think that's where the commenting comes in as well. So, I mean, we have the power to delete comments.
Oh, okay, I see. So it might be like if you have maybe it's like if you have a large percentage of AI generated comments, then that might indicate that you've got some pod or so that's all doing AI stuff and
Yep.
not. I see.
Yep. So I think it really is also training us who are posting to say no to the people. You know what I mean? It's sort of a self-editing process for us to say no, like, you know, shall remain unnamed, but I mean, several pods or engagement groups, as I like to call them, one of which has a person who does the AI commenting. And so it then what that does is that we tell that person, please don't do that anymore. Because otherwise one would not, right? So it's sort of a self-regulation, I think, that they're going for.
And you can spot the
from a mile against the wind.
yeah. I got 1 or 2 reviews. I was like, I wonder.
Yeah, maybe they fed, you know, it could very well be that they fed your book into an AI and then
I hope not, but whatever. Yeah.
Anyway, on that note,
On that note, I have 52 reviews now.
yay!
As we speak.
Very good. That is fantastic. I mean, that is absolutely fantastic. And those are all great, great LinkedIn posts, and or send them back to people and say, please post that on my profile. Recommendation, right? That's what I would do.
Yeah. Yes.
All right, guys, this has been fantastic, and you know, could go on forever as usual. And thank you for those who have. We've had quite a few chatter going on in the chat. No outright questions, otherwise I would have highlighted them. I think Jason was super busy. From what I can tell. Yeah, I cannot like host and do the comments at the same time, because then I'll go into the comments and forget that I'm hosting. That's your ADHD brain for you right there.
Yep.
Thank you both again for coming on, being gracious co-hosts and guests. And for those of you who are still sticking around, we'd love to know, or watching the replay, would love to know from you what kind of topics you want us to tackle on our next LinkedIn Roundtable, which will be probably in about 3 months. So that's been our rhythm, and I think that is serving us well. So thank you all for joining us, and see you around the next time.
Elevate your conversations.
Yes.
Bye, everyone.